Today, we're looking at the rest of the black and red cards from Phyrexia. All will be one that weren't spoiled individually. If you missed the episode covering white and blue, you can check that out in the description. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do, remember to click Steven below the... Steven? Buddy? Oh dear, you aren't looking so good. Right, okay, we need to... Oh gosh, that's not great. Let's begin. Annihilating Glare is 1 black for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, pay 4 or sacrifice an artifact or creature. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. A fine removal spell. Outrageously cheap if you sacrifice a Might or something else equally tiny, but even at 5 mana, and even at sorcery speed, this isn't bad because it's a removal spell. That's how good straight up removal spells are in Limited, especially ones that can hit planeswalkers. Card's great. We play removal in these parts. Cruel Grimnarch is 6 mana for a 5/5 Phyrexian cleric with Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. For each opponent who can't, you gain 4 life. Now, this is a hefty creature, wow. Death Touch feels almost superfluous on a 5/5, curve top filler for sure, and it takes the card with it. Worst case, you spend 6 mana for a 5/5 that gains you 4 life. Nice card advantage and board advantage you're creating with this. It is a solid playable. Cutthroat Centurion is 3 mana for a 2/2 artifact creature Phyrexian warrior. You can sacrifice another artifact or creature to give the Centurion +2/+2 until end of turn, activate only once each turn. I was about to get Nantuko Husk flashbacks, but glad that got stopped. You can sacrifice a creature or artifact to activate this, so there's flexibility here, but the only way something like this has consistent utility is in a deck that creates a bunch of mites or something similarly expendable. Otherwise, you're playing a 3 mana 2/2 that eats your good creatures and artifacts. You don't want that. This has conditional inclusion. Gulping Scrap Trap is 5 mana for a 4/4 Phyrexian horror. When it enters the battlefield or dies, proliferate. It's a nice common proliferator. You get 2 token bumps out of the card, and in between you have a 4/4 that can wreak havoc on the battlefield. This will fit just fine in the decks we've spoken about before that are using poison and oil counters heavily, but if you don't have those strategies, there are better places to spend 5 mana. Infectious Inquiry is 3 mana for a sorcery. You draw 2 cards and you lose 2 life. Each opponent gets a poison counter. Nice way to get the first poison counter on your opponent to start proliferating. I guess that warrants the increase in cost from Night's Whisper, but I'd still rather just have that, to be honest. It's a card draw spell in Limited, so if you're weak in the 3-drop slot, go nuts, but I don't think it's particularly powerful or a high priority. Offer Immortality is 2 mana for an instant. Target creature gains Death Touch and Indestructible until end of turn. This card's funny. It's basically a 2 mana instant to win combat, keep your creature alive, definitely kill theirs. There's something elegant about that. This is Battle Rage Blessing, so we're not looking at anything new here. It's a fine card. Won't make the cut in all Limited decks, but it is a solid trick that will almost always win combat for you. And if you're low on interactions in your deck, give this a shot. Could do some serious work. Shieldred's Headcleaver is 4 mana for a 2/4 Phyrexian warrior with Menace and Toxic 2. I love that it has Menace. 4 mana is a lot to pay for something with 2 power, but the value in this card is in the toxicity. You're going to wait for the right time to attack, probably when they don't have 2 creatures to block, or the 2 creatures that can block can't get up to 4 toughness to kill the thing, and those 2 poison counters will not feel good. Not a particularly flashy card, the Headcleaver is a decent curve filler, defends for you really well, and punishes an empty or underdeveloped board better than most. Testament Bearer is 4 mana for a 4/1 Phyrexian warrior. When it dies, look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 1 of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Well, you aren't going to have to worry about getting that death trigger because I'm pretty sure this thing dies when you look at it the wrong way, basically made of tissue paper. Coming with 4 power means that you can attack in and either get your death trigger right away or hit them for a lot each turn. Better yet, hold it back and defend against a 4/4. Force your opponent to use a removal spell against it and give you your card advantage anyways. Regardless, it's going to replace itself in your hand with some nice card filtering, and it will almost always trade with another card. It's a solid playable. Whisper of the Dross is 1 mana for an instant. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn, proliferate. This is what happens when Drown and Ichor chills out, like, a lot. -1/-1 doesn't usually make or break a game, but there are lots of 2/1s running around that are very annoying, and proliferating is a synergistic mechanic. So I would say that if you have proliferate targets in your deck, this gains some value, but I normally put -1/-1 removal spells a tier below other removal just on principle, so it's really up to you. Axiom Engraver is 1 of anything and 1 red for a 1/3 Phyrexian wizard that enters the battlefield with 2 oil counters on it. You can tap it, remove an oil counter from it, and discard a card to draw a card. That is so much work to rummage. I'd prefer a static rummage ability than one that runs out after 2 activations, but we do what we can with what we have. I'd say this Engraver is slightly below average, but gets better the more proliferate and oil counter generation you have, of course. Giving this rummage more consistently would increase its stock in my eyes a fair bit and make it a decent 2-drop in Limited. Barbed Batterfist is 2 mana for an artifact equipment with an equip cost of 1, and it comes with 4 Mirrodin. Equipped creature gets +1/-1. Yeah, alright, this is fine. 2 mana for a 3/1 works for me, and then as the game goes on and your 3/1 inevitably dies, you can always put this on any 3/3 or 4/4 or a flyer to give it more power. It's a good equipment to put in a limited deck that cares about equipment or artifacts. Bladegraft Aspirant is 3 mana for a 2/3 Phyrexian warrior with menace. Equipment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Activated abilities of equipment you control that target the aspirant cost 1 less to activate. This is the kind of equipment synergy I was just talking about. 3 mana for a 2/3 with menace isn't anything super exciting, so if you pick up a few of these, you're already looking to be building an equipment type strategy. Very specific purpose, it isn't going anywhere else. If you don't have equipment, do not play this card. Blazing Crescendo is 2 mana for an instant. Target creature gets +3/+1 until end of turn. Exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. Well, holy crap, this card is awesome. What a baller combat trick. Make something huge to trade with a giant creature coming in, and you get a pseudo draw. There's a lot of value here. Even beyond limited, I'm thinking Zada or Feather, to be real with you. Didn't expect this card to be in the card image gallery dump, really hiding some treasure here. It's great for limited and commander, maybe even Pauper now that I think about it. Chimney Rabble is 4 mana for a 3/3 Phyrexian Goblin Warrior with haste. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 red Phyrexian Goblin creature token. 4 mana for 4 power and 4 toughness, spread across 2 creatures, and the 3/3 has haste. I'll take it, it's a decent curve card. Attack in with your hasty 3/3 and you have a chump blocker to deal with the blowback. Straightforward, solid card. Forgehammer Centurion is 3 mana for a 3/2 Phyrexian Warrior. When another creature or artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put an oil counter on the Centurion. Whenever it attacks, you may remove 2 oil counters from it. When you do, target creature can't block this turn. It's an interesting comment. Building up oil counters on it could help you remove a powerful blocker from the equation, letting you get in some serious damage. And the oil counter generation isn't really something you have to go out of your way to accomplish. It sort of just happens throughout the course of the game, so that's nice. It isn't incredibly powerful, but could function as a decent curve filler in a more aggressive style limited deck. Free from Flesh is 1 red for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Put 2 oil counters on it. Now this is something to talk about. Combat tricks aren't usually a high priority, but bringing along 2 oil counters could be interesting if your deck has a bunch of oil counters using creatures in it. We've seen a number of cards that need oil counters that don't necessarily start with any, so if you happen to be running an oil counter heavy deck, I'd actually consider running this card. Normally I would say this is on the worst end of limited cards, but with those oil counters, it might be nice in the right strategy. Furnace Strider is 5 mana for a 4/5 Phyrexian Beast and enters the battlefield with 2 oil counters on it. You can remove an oil counter from it to have target creature you control gain haste until end of turn. What a massive card to be granting something as cheeky as haste. 5 mana for a 4/5 isn't spectacular, but it makes a great blocker and it brings 2 activations of its ability, turning your next 2 threats into real issues for your opponent. By the time you play this Strider, you'll have the mana to be dropping your biggest creatures, and that's exactly when you want something like this to be on the battlefield. Worst case, it can grant itself haste, which does add to its value a bit. It's a filler card definitely, but it's an interesting one. Hazardous Blast is 4 mana for a sorcery. It deals 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. Creatures your opponents control can't block this turn. We've seen cards like this before. They can absolutely win the game in the right strategies. You're looking for an aggressive deck that doesn't match up against big blockers well. Aggressively curved deck looking to apply early pressure and using this card to close it out. Koldatha Cackler is 3 mana for a 2/3 Phyrexian Hyena, great creature type with trample. Whenever it attacks, it gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the number of permanents you control with oil counters on them. Trample helps us out a lot and makes it a great card in an oil counter limited deck. If you sense that your deck is leaning that way as you draft, pick up a few of these. You should be able to get them towards the middle or latter half of the pack, as not everyone in red will be focusing on the same thing. Only useful in an oil counter deck, so don't pay too much attention if you aren't saturated with oil. Molten Rebuke is 5 mana for a sorcery. Choose one or both. It deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker and or destroy target equipment. Yes, it's expensive, but even if it didn't have the ability to destroy an equipment, I'd still say you should play it. It annihilates most any creature or planeswalker in the format. It doesn't matter that it's sorcery speed at all. This is limited, where removal wins games. And this one comes with added gravy and equipment destruction. It's an early pick and draft. Can't argue with straightforward removal like this. Red Sun's Twilight is X and double red for a sorcery. Destroy up to X target artifacts. If X is 5 or more for each artifact destroyed this way, create a token that's a copy of it. Those tokens gain haste. Exile them at the beginning of the next end step. This rare was buried in the card image gallery release, so we're going to treat it a bit differently. Cards like these with X in the cost and up to in the text box, they always make me think of cost reducing cards based on targeting, which is why this will go straight into Hinata. You essentially pay 2 red mana to destroy all your opponent's artifacts and get copies of them for a turn, and the best part is that you get enter the battlefield triggers and leave the battlefield triggers on all those artifact copies, and possibly even leave the battlefield triggers on your own artifacts if you want to destroy them as well. So really, you could get 3 sets of triggers from this card. Need to use it with synergistic artifacts, of course, but in the right deck, there's a ton of value to be had here. It's kind of a nice card. Shrapnel Slinger is 2 mana for a 2/2 artifact creature Phyrexian Beast. When it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature. When you do, destroy target artifact an opponent controls. This reads like a narrow card, but in Phyrexia Limited, where half of what you care about end up being artifacts, it might not be that narrow. A bear with conditional upside is okay, I suppose, and it doesn't say you have to sacrifice a different creature, so really, it's a bear that is also a shatter. Could be nice for a red sideboard limited deck to bring in against artifact-heavy strategies. Thrill of Possibility is getting reprinted, and that artwork is just wow, might be one of my favorite pieces in the entire set. Even though it fills me with sadness because I love Nahiri and everything she's ever done, the history of ever, yes, that includes the nonsense with the Eldrazi, she's perfect, I don't care what anyone says. Full Shock Splitter is 4 mana for an artifact equipment with an equip cost of 3 and 4 Mirrodin. Equipped creature gets +2/+0. So we're looking at this as a 4/2 for 4 mana that can potentially grant some power to something later. It's fine. A bit expensive for my taste, but if you're playing the equipment deck that I touched on before, then this probably deserves a spot, but again, it has to be a real equipment deck. There are far better equipment in this set, and this one only deserves a spot if you have some type of synergy going on. Otherwise, there are likely better cards to put in your 40. I'm instinctively resistant to embracing mechanics that require counters on them to be good and limited, but I think oil counters may be an interesting way to go. I'm excited to try it out with varied strategies and the cards we've seen so far. Let me know what you think in the comments, and as we continue our Best of the Rest series and move into our pre-release and draft coverage, I hope you're getting as hyped as I am. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.